For the record, I am not a candidate to coach the University of Michigan football program. Welcome to a Thursday edition, a Week 15 preview edition of Inside Coverage on Yahoo. My name is Andrew Siciliano from the home office in Southern California. Thank you for being here. We're here every Monday through Thursday to give you the how and the why, any and everything you need to know about the National Football League. And every Thursday, we preview not every game. That would take a while. And also, honestly, like there's some games this week that probably don't move many people, like the Commanders and the Giants. Do we need to? I mean, I know it's important to both of those teams, but we're not going to hoist it upon you if you choose to avoid that weekend. So the games, or that game this weekend, the games that mean the most to us, we're going to pick 5. And to pick those games and to preview those games, NFL writer, senior writer for Yahoo, Jori Epstein, and our gambling expert, Ben Fawkes. Jori, you went to Texas. Are you a candidate to coach the University of Michigan?
I can confirm I am not.
Okay. Claremont McKenna graduate, Ben, are you a candidate?
No, I am not.
Okay. All right. I'm not either.
Just want to get that out there,
aside,
Andrew.
Yeah, the story's horrible, like in many ways. Like I know everyone, like in my Ohio State life, and I did not go to Ohio State. Obviously, I work and spend a lot of time there. They all are getting a kick out of it. The rest of the world is going like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So that's one huge story. The other huge story in the NFL is not only the Phillip Rivers thing this week, but the Joe Burrow thing, which kind of popped up yesterday. We're going to get to the 5 games that mean the most to us shortly. But right before we came to air for Wednesday's show, Joe Burrow was on the podium, and it seemed like a ho-hum Wednesday press conference as they get ready for another game, rematch with the Baltimore Ravens, big game of the AFC North, but certainly more probably for the Ravens than it is for the Bengals. Cincinnati is one of 3 teams in the AFC that has an elimination scenario this week. It was Burrow's 29th birthday as well, and birthdays can be heavy. They're not always the happiest day, especially when you're, say, a year away from a life-altering round number like Joe Burrow is. We've all kind of sort of been there before. I barely remember my 29th birthday, nor my 30th for that matter. But Joe had some stuff to get off his chest. He was pensive, introspective. He kind of gave a little, but didn't give a lot. And because of that, the entire NFL world is now asking the question, what the heck was he talking about? Decide for yourself.
Change the way that you view the game.
No, it certainly doesn't change my desire to win. If I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it. I've been through a lot, and if it's not fun, then what am I doing it for? So that's the mindset I'm trying to bring to the table.
How much fun are you having right now? Is it difficult to have fun, given the season, what you've been through physically, emotionally, all of it? Is it tough?
Yeah, certainly.
Did you have fun playing? How much of it was fun before? Winning's always fun, but in general, was it as fun before you got hurt? Did you view it that way, at least?
No, I wouldn't say I viewed it that way. I think.
What was the changing point?
Changing point. I'm not sure there was a singular moment or of time. It's just reflection on a lot of things that I've done and been through in my career. I think I've been through more than most, and certainly not easy on the brain or the body. So just trying to have fun doing it again.
You seem like there's something on your mind, or maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seemed frustrated.
There's just a lot of things going on right now.
Football related, personally?
All the above.
What did you?
All right, there's a lot there. Get Up this morning on ESPN. And by the way, a lot of us around the NFL our phones kind of blew up going, hey, did you see that? Like, what's going on? Schefter said the same thing this morning. Dan Orlovsky said, hey, I watched it. My reaction is he don't want to be there anymore. That's Joe Burrow telling the world he doesn't want to be there anymore. Now, Adam pushed back, and I think a lot of us should push back because we don't know that. But it reminded me, Jori, of the scene near the end of Office Space. I'm going to age myself. Where Ron Livingston's character is sitting there at the Applebee's talking to Jennifer Aniston, and he says, I don't like my job, and I don't think I'm going to go anymore. And she says, you mean you're going to quit? And he goes, no, I'm just not going to go anymore. Now, that's not what he said, but the body language was the same, to me, at least. What do you see?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we are left to speculate since we don't have clear answers. He wanted us to know that this is not only an injury element, because when I hear someone who's been through a lot of season-ending or season-shortening injuries, I start to wonder, well, we saw Andrew Luck, who retired what felt like all of a sudden to us, but seemed to be having emotions not totally unlike what we saw from Joe Burrow this week. And so could this be an Andrew Luck situation where you hang it up way before people expected to? Or is this not such a new emotion for Joe? He just chose to tell people on this day. And by tell people, I mean tell people publicly. I mean, Jamar Chase was asked the next day, well, can you tell when Joe's happy? Did he seem any different? And Jamar's like, not really. He seems the same to me. And I think it's kind of a reminder of we don't know when people are having these emotions. We don't know when they feel like they're carrying a lot, both personally and professionally, as Joe Burrow said. But what I do think is when I think about what do you do next with this information, if I'm head coach Zach Taylor and I'm offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher and probably even de facto GM Duke Tobin, and I see this, I'm having Joe Burrow come talk to me in my office, and not in a you're in trouble way, but like a, hey, why don't we talk about what's on your mind? Is there something we can do together to make this better, whether that's to support you personally or to change something in this building professionally? Because I don't think this is just about the fact that it's a losing season. That is not the impression that Joe Burrow gave off in this press conference.
Yeah, I think to add, especially in kind of the player empowerment era, right? We know he's telling us something. It's just a question of what is that? Is that I don't want to play quarterback anymore for any team? Is that I don't want to play quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals starting next season? There are a couple of options there. And obviously Joe Burrow is one of the elite quarterbacks. Like I do, the piece before each season about the players basically and the quarterbacks most valuable to the spread. Like Joe Burrow is top 5 every single season. He is that, LeBron James in the NBA. He is going to move futures odds if he does move teams, certainly in the offseason. It's just something where, again, we're not quite sure exactly what he's saying, but in this age, especially of social media, this was a very deliberate message. He was trying to tell the media or the owners or other teams something. We're just left kind of deciphering exactly what that is. And looking back too, I think ESPN had the graphic, like he's been sacked, I want to say it was, 15 to 20 times more than Andrew Luck in, I think, 13 fewer games. So the offensive line hasn't been good. And I believe in the last 4 seasons, they've had 13 picks basically in the first, second, or third round. They've used 11 of those on defense. So a bad offensive line, they've used a lot of picks on defense. And then those draft picks haven't really hit. They just traded away Logan Wilson, who was a good player. So you have this defense as well that's not only bad, but historically bad this season. There's probably a part of him looking at, okay, where is the help coming from? They already got rid of the defensive coordinator before. That didn't help the situation. I think it's also hey, they paid T. Higgins, they paid Jamar Chase, they've paid Joe Burrow. Is this as good as this team is going to be? And we're left not knowing, is he upset about that? Or is, as Jori said, like, is this something, when he alluded to there wasn't really a changing point, that's when you think it may be something kind of deeper, because it wasn't like, hey, it was that season we lost in the AFC Championship game, or is that injury and is the rehab. It's just kind of this vague, it's been like this for a while. So it's a fascinating story, and one we certainly didn't see coming.
No, didn't see coming at all. I mean, the fact that they lost in typical, Bengals fashion the last 2 years in Buffalo probably doesn't help. But 2 of those late scores were because of Joe Burrow interceptions, right? Plays you could say that's on you. And maybe that's the deep introspective part of it. Like, we did score these points. We did have the 10-point lead in Buffalo, and one of the reasons we blew the lead is me. So now I didn't do my part to overcome our obvious deficiencies on defense. And Jori, you made the point like Dan Pitcher or Zach Taylor or Duke Tobin should go speak to him. If I'm Mike Brown, I'm knocking on his door right now. If I'm Mike Brown, I'm driving to his house and I'm going, all right, how do we fix this? Are you okay? What can we do? Now, Mike Brown probably thinks I have done that. I did. I battle back from this injury, and it is still the same result. Oh, by the way, I'm in Cincinnati. It's 30. It's going to snow tomorrow. It's my birthday. I turn 30 next year. What am I doing with my life? We've all had those moments. His, though, were public. And it's like the wow signal or the opening 20 minutes of The Great Apple Show. You used to watch it, Pluribus, from creator Vince Gilligan. It's shameless plug. It's a great show. It's like we get this signal from the cosmos. We don't know what it is. We're going to try to figure out what this signal is. I have no clue. We know it's something, but we don't yet know what it is. Jori, you mentioned Jamar Chase. When Jamar, after 5 minutes of just like the normal back and forth, the Patriots game, T. Higgins, all this stuff, at the beginning of his presser today, finally somebody got to the question everybody wanted to ask, and they did it this way. They just go, Jamar, does Joe like football? And he was like, is this AI? Like, what? Huh? Like, what, guys? But he also did say, like, I mean, Joe smiles, but I don't know when he's happy. He seems like the same guy. And I was going to get him a birthday cake yesterday because I know it would tick him off. But we didn't do that. And, he's always the same to me. But this, until he comes out and says, guys, it was nothing. Guys, I was having a bad day. Can't we have bad days? Yeah, bad days. Until he comes out and says that and says, I want to be here, this thing ain't going to go away, Jori.
Yeah, I think there's one point I agree with Jamar Chase on and one I disagree with. I agree with Jamar Chase that there is an element of like, Joe doesn't necessarily show how he's feeling. The times I've been to the Bengals for training camp, I mean, I've been in locker rooms where there are quarterbacks who are going around, they're playing laundry basketball with one guy and checking on another guy's family. And that they're just sort of a little bit more charismatic and out there in a way that's social, not just as a leader. And there's not one way to be a leader, and there's not one way to be a quarterback. Joe Burrow had his own mini fridge at his locker and a chessboard and was kind of sitting there on his own, and he's entitled to do that. There was nothing wrong with it, but I don't know that he was going around telling people how he was feeling and asking how they were in the way that I do see other quarterbacks having that degree of conversation. What I didn't agree with in Jamar Chase's comments was Jamar Chase goes, you guys are just trying to make a narrative out of something, like you're just trying to create this narrative. We're not. Joe Burrow created this narrative of his own narrative. And when it was asked, are you frustrated? Yes, he acknowledged he was frustrated. Is this personal, professional? Some of both going on. I mean, there were multiple times when he was kind of given out, so to say, that if we were just making too much of it, he could say so. And he made very clear that this was not just a media narrative. So I get that it is our job to try and make sense of it all, but to say that this is not something that Joe Burrow specifically created is just disingenuous. And Jamar might just not have watched it through, but I think it's important for people to realize that if they're just watching Jamar Chase say, you guys are trying to create something out of nothing, this is not something out of nothing.
No, he was deflecting and he was supporting his teammate. It's the understandable thing to do. It reminded me of Jerry Jeudy last week, 2 weeks ago on the podium in Cleveland. Look, he's leading the league in drops. It has not been a good season for him, nor the whole offense. He had the big touchdown last week. Things are coming around with Shedeur Sanders playing quarterback. But somebody asked Jerry Jeudy, hey, is everything okay? You don't seem like a little combative. You don't seem yourself the last couple of weeks. And he goes, guys, I have a life outside of here. I am a football player, but I'm a person too. And got to remember that with Joe Burrow and everyone else. All right, let's get to games. We'll do that. Okay, good. That was a rhetorical question. We're going to get to games. We have 5 games that we're going to preview here. Week number 15. There are no buys. Week 15, this is another fantastic week. There are 8 games early in the 1 o'clock window. There are 5 games in the 4 p.m. window. There are 4 games between teams that are 500 or better, which is great. And there are 6 divisional games as it is officially that time of the year. And the first game we're going to preview is actually checking both of those boxes. It's between 2 teams 500 or better, and it is between 2 teams in the same division. It is the 9-0 Buffalo Bills and the 11-2 New England Patriots coming off a bye. It's Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt and Evan Washburn in a rematch from Week 5 in which the Patriots won that game. It was a Sunday night game in Foxborough. The Patriots can win the AFC East by beating the Bills. They could also clinch a playoff berth with a Houston loss plus an Indianapolis loss. The Patriots are up 2 on the Bills, and they are undefeated in the division, and they have won 10 consecutive games. Jori, for me, this comes down to running the football. James Cook has been great. Bills want to run the ball. They average a league-high 157.8 on the ground. They have 22 rushing touchdowns between Cook and Josh Allen and Ty Johnson. That is second in the NFL. And the Patriots have the number 3 rush defense. Neither of these teams can really get after the quarterback. Buffalo's O-line has been banged up. The Patriots don't have Will Campbell. He's on injured reserve. I'm actually leaning Buffalo here. And I know that is counterintuitive. People think the Patriots are going to roll. They're going to win the division. They're at home. How do you pick against this team at home? Jori, I'm planting my flag. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills, even with Christian Bedford popping up on the injured list on Thursday.
Yeah, when the Patriots played the Giants on Monday Night Football before their bye, I was concerned about left tackle Will Campbell and defensive tackle Milton Williams heading to injured reserve. They were playing the Giants. The Giants have struggled against everyone, and they were struggling even to kick a football that night, like literally to connect foot with ball. So there was a lot going on for the Giants, but the Bills are not going to show up with that degree of disorganization that the Giants had. So I do have concerns about the Patriots' ability to control the lines of scrimmage without key players on both sides of them. Now, I don't think that they're not going to be able to be competitive, but I think Buffalo is going to come in here super fired up. They're going to want to get back what they lost in terms of that earlier season divisional matchup. I still think the Patriots win the AFC East, and I don't really think that's in question, but I do think that it's actually probably good for the Patriots if they drop this one. Now, obviously, maybe from a home field standpoint in playoffs, I'm not saying that it will give them a clearer road to getting to be at home for all of the games, but I do think that the more adversity they face now, the more they're going to be able to learn from that and find the answers that will help them for the playoffs, given how young a lot of their team is, given how young Mike Vrabel is in terms of being specifically head coach of the New England Patriots, even though he's been around the block in Tennessee and played in New England. And so I don't think that's a bad thing, but ultimately, I think that the skill players in New England might not be enough to overcome what I view as some of the challenges they'll have on the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, really, really good game. Bills a 1.5 point favorite, won at some books. It actually got to pick them before getting back to Bills -1. So pretty evenly kind of bet here as well. A little more Bills money at some books, evenly bet at other books. It'll be a question whether the Patriots are favored kind of in this game, depending on kind of some of the respected money as the week goes along and some of those injuries. The Bills have only been an underdog twice this season. Once was against Baltimore in week 1. They won that game. Once was against Kansas City. They won that game outright. So if they are an underdog, they have performed well in that situation this season. Ultimately, they're kind of 2 fairly evenly rated teams. The Bills are 10th in DVOA. The Patriots are up to 14th, even though they have that 11-2 record and have won 10 straight. Both defenses not really great. Bills allowing 5.4 yards per play. The Patriots 5.2. I think the big difference here, at least that I saw in some research, Patriots 7th in third down defense, the Bills 23rd. So Bills not really getting off the field. We saw that a lot against Cincinnati as well. They really just couldn't get off the field and happened to have really those turnovers. One on a tip ball, one on a, however you want to say, lucky, fortuitous on that pick 6 as well. So it wasn't like a defensive standout game necessarily against the Bengals. They did end up winning that. The Bills certainly now have righted the ship. Like they're going to make the playoffs. they probably won't win that division, as Jori said. And for the Patriots, this is they're going to win the division probably no matter what. They have some easy games coming up after this as well. But this is kind of a playoff statement game. And I think for the Bills, knowing that you're probably going to have to go into Foxborough and you already lost to this team earlier, they're just a little more on the line for them. So I do tend to lean as well, kind of liking Buffalo in this game. And ultimately, Drake May is great. He's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I think, is the best player in the NFL. He showed that against the Bengals. It's very difficult, especially in the snow, to defend him. Not sure there'll be snow this weekend, but I just think when he has to put them on his back, he does. And I think this is a game that they need going into the playoffs.
You know what? Let's go a little bit deeper on these quarterbacks here. Earlier this week, Jori had a chance to talk to Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakir.
What stands out to you about Drake May? I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of crossover film, even if you're not playing specifically against him, or you've talked to Stefon Diggs about him.
Yeah, I think his composure, just the way he's able to kind of adjust throughout a game as well, and the plays he's able to make. I've heard people say he's kind of a younger Josh in regards to how he's able to extend plays, and yeah, I think when you play quarterback, the biggest thing is being composed in crazy environments, and he's obviously shown that. So, yeah, this year he's been making some unreal plays, and obviously he's leading that team to a lot of W's. So we're just excited for the opportunity to go against them.
When you guys go to the Patriots this week and you go to Foxborough, you see Stefon Diggs. What did you learn from him when you guys were teammates for a couple years? And what stands out to you about the way he's been able to come back from the ACL tear and to just have this season with the quarterback who you compared to Josh Allen?
I think that Steph is one of the most competitive dudes that I have ever been around. And I think when I got to Buffalo, obviously I was super excited to be able to play with him. But how he is on game day, it shows like he is insanely competitive and wants to do anything and everything for his team to make sure that they get the win. So learning from him early on when he was here in Buffalo, that's kind of what I learned from him. Now, obviously going against him, it's funny because it's like you see him on the field and I got to experience how he went about his everyday life in real time. And now seeing him across the field is insane to just see like just how he keeps that competitive edge no matter where he's at. And no matter what time it is, the game day, no matter what game it is, Sunday, Thursday, whatever it is, like that competitive edge is always there. So, yeah, from him, I've learned like you just got to be a dog and you have to show that and prove yourself every single game day.
And not just any dog, but the specific type of dog that y'all put on the screen, right?
Yes, well, that's for the Buffalo Bills. We don't need him, but that's for us, yeah.
All right, that was good. What's the dog here, Jori?
Okay, yeah, it's funny. I guess we missed the beginning of that in the clip. But basically, he was saying that one of his teammates got up, I think it was Shaq Mason, and essentially showed all of these different dogs on the screens for the Bills and was like, and we're this specific dog, which is fiercely loyal and kind. But then when it goes up against someone else and there's an intruder, it gets really vicious and starts to defend. And that is the type of dog that the Buffalo Bills are aspiring to be. So, yes, but no, it was fun to talk to Khalil. And it was interesting to me that he made the comparison between Josh Allen and Drake May. And I know he kind of couched it like I've heard people say, but he brought it up. I wasn't asking for the comparison. And to me, it's one thing for someone who's on the Drake May side of this to see that comparison. But for someone who's played several years with the MVP to see it, I do think it's notable and kind of like carries a different level of credibility.
Absolutely. And you know what Diggs has done? I had it here. That's what I was Googling. Diggs in 2 games against the Bills since he left, 228 yards. Yeah, pretty good. And I was also Googling the name of his dog, Stefon Diggs' dog, because I seem to remember, and this is many, many years ago, I seem to remember interviewing him, and we talked about a dog that he had showed that he had put up on his IG, and I think the dog's name was Little Fat Man, but I have to Google that. So that's what I'm multitasking here. Either way, good stuff there with Khalil Shakir.
And it was Shaq Lawson who put the dog on the board. I should clarify.
Got it. Shaq Lawson. So yeah, it's who's got who lets the dog out? I guess Sunday. We'll see. I just went there. Showed my age. What a horrible song. Coming up next, 2 huge games in the 4 p.m. Eastern time window. One in Denver, one in LA. That's on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage, everybody. During the break, I was Googling Stephon Diggs, Frenchie from back in the day. I can't find it. Maybe I imagined that story. Maybe it was a different player. I thought it was Stephon Diggs. I don't remember. Anyway, hi, my name is Andrew. We're previewing the Week 15 games. Yes, we're at Week 15 already. Jori, Epstein, Ben Fawkes with me as well. It is a great day all across, and it is a great 4 o'clock Eastern time window as well, including, let's do this one in the NFC, including the 8-5 Detroit Lions and the 10-3 Los Angeles Rams, the 8 seed in the NFC. So the Lions right now would be out if the playoffs were to start tomorrow. They don't. Against the 1 seed in the NFC with the home team, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi on the call. They all get to drive to the game, although honestly, I don't know where Tom lives, the other 3 here in LA. Rams clinch a playoff berth with a win. They have a 46% probability, according to the NFL's NGS, to be the 1 seed. The Lions have a 51% chance of making the playoffs, just getting in. Both of these teams are top 5 in scoring and total offense. The big storyline anybody and everybody wants to talk about, the idea that this is the 2 quarterbacks who are traded for each other. It's Jared Goff coming back here to LA. He still owns a home in the South Bay, facing his old team and facing Matthew Stafford. It's the 4th meeting. Goff is 2-1. That's including the postseason. Jared yesterday said, guys, this isn't a story anymore. Answered a couple of questions, said, I'm over it. That after the playoff win a couple of years ago in Detroit on Sunday night, like, that's it. I'm over it. And then there were more questions. And he said, God, really, we're still talking about this? Yes, we are still talking about this. We're also still talking about the fact that, for my money, the Rams are the best team in the NFL, the best team. And this would be a resounding statement victory ahead of what will be a very difficult Week 16. The Rams have to go on the road for the rematch in Seattle on a short week on Thursday night. It's going to be cold. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a lot. So they have to meet the emotional moment that Dan Campbell and the Lions are bringing with them. And they're the rested team. They played last Thursday. Jori, I have a hard time going against the Rams. The Rams are the better team. This game kind of scares me as a Rams fan, but I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because the playoff implications are pretty significant. Well, first of all, this is the current top team in the NFC against last year's number 1 seed in the NFC in the Lions. But what I think is interesting is, even though the Rams are at the top, I mean, they still have such a crowded division with the Seahawks at 10-3, the 49ers at 9-4. And then you have the Lions, on the other hand, who really need this win to make it into the playoffs. I mean, they are 1 spot out of it if the playoffs were to start today. On one hand, I get where Jared Goff is coming from in the sense of, like, it's not this story of who wronged who and is someone mad or have this revenge to get back. But I do think it's still a story because both fan bases are intimately familiar with the other quarterback and invested in how their careers go, which is particularly interesting this year when Matthew Stafford could be on the cusp of his first ever MVP award after so many years playing at a really high level for the Detroit Lions, but not being on a team where he was actually going to win the MVP. So I'm really interested in a lot of these styles. I'm interested to see, hey, this Lions defense, super aggressive, a lot of press man coverage. We talked about that in recent weeks. Well, how does that work against a receiver like Puka Nacua, who's really strong at the point of catch? And then, okay, well, if they get a little over aggressive and jump a bit, well, Matthew Stafford can air it out and burn them the way that Jordan Love did a couple weeks ago. So I think there are quite a few one-on-one matchups and position group matchups that will be a lot of fun to watch. And we could see this matchup again in the playoffs if the Lions continue to win.
Yeah, and the Lions right there with the odds too. They are minus 115 to make the playoffs, minus 105 to miss the playoffs. So right there, they do after the game as well have Steelers at Vikings at Bears. So they could still theoretically kind of control their own destiny with that week 18 game against the Bears. And obviously, I forget if that was week 2, week 3, early in the season when they crushed the Bears at home. So they would have the tiebreaker
Week
over
2.
the Bears. Week 2, there you go, if they win that week 18 game. But a really important game nonetheless. This open Rams minus 5.5 up to Rams minus 6. The big move that we've seen in some respected money is on the total. This opened at 52.5. It is up to 55.5, which is a big number. Obviously indoors, both teams playing indoors. And the Lions defense a little banged up as well. I think, as you're alluding to, Joy, with Terry and Arnold out, Brian Branch out, Kirby Joseph questionable. It's that question of, all right, at what point are there too many injuries, which is exactly what we were saying, unfortunately, about the Lions defense last season when they were so good in the first half. And then just eventually there were too many injuries to overcome kind of in the second half, and they fell off a bit. The Rams have won 7 of 8. I think what's interesting about them and kind of where we differentiate maybe against the Patriots or let's say the Broncos is the Rams have been crushing these teams. So not only are they 9-4 against the spread, they're 9-3 as a favorite, and they have the second best margin of cover. So basically how much they're covering the spread of any team outside of the Seahawks. So all of these games in the past few weeks, the Jaguars 35-7, Saints 34-10, outside of that Seahawks game, Bucks 34-7. They're not only winning these games, they're kind of running away from these teams. And so I think that's why they are number 1 right now in odds makers power ratings, justifiably so. It's just going to be a question of that Lions team, which still is number 1 in yards per play on offense. Can that defense kind of get enough stops to keep them in this game? Because that Lions defense just gave up 27 points to Jameis Winston and the Giants, 31 to the Packers, and 30 to the Cowboys. And now they're facing the Rams in LA. So I think that's the big question. Are there too many injuries kind of for the Lions to overcome? But ultimately, when you're getting 6 points with the Lions, that's tough to pass up with that offense. So I kind of lean towards the Rams winning this game and the Lions covering it. But if that offense is really clicking, and remember, also 10 days rest for Amon-Ra St. Brown's ankle. And so that's a big factor as well. He did not look, obviously, 100% in that last game. He is the engine, along with Jahmyr Gibbs, that makes that offense go. So if he's closer to 75, 80%, all of a sudden that's a different offense. They really have a chance in the game.
For the record, I don't believe Jared at all when he says I'm over it. I mean, I guess there's two things. There's a difference between being over it. He might be over it, but that doesn't mean it still doesn't mean something. Being over it means it doesn't keep you up at night. I mean, he's got a beautiful little baby in the house. Like there are other things that keep him up at night. He's not staring at the ceiling thinking about, I'm going to get revenge again on Sean McVay. But of course, it means something to him. His friends are here. He's from California, northern, not southern. But like this is a homecoming. Don't let Jared convince you otherwise. So yes, it does mean something. And it means something certainly as well. A lot when it comes to the Lions' playoff fate. The Brian Branch injury to me is huge because you've listed the other injuries in the secondary. Branch also puts his face in the fan in the run game, and the Rams want to run the football as much as they can to set up those downfield shots. The Rams are going to activate Shatarius Antoine Atwell. You know him as Tutu. And Sean McVay cannot help himself. If Tutu is in the game, he's going to find a way to get him deep. Now, whether or not he and Stafford can connect is another issue. There have been plenty of almosts with Tutu over the years, and there's been plenty of like, wow, okay, he just burned a guy. I what's the old phrase? Like, I bet $1 to a donut. I don't even know what that means, but like, I've heard that. Yeah, if there are donuts on the line here, Matthew Stafford's going to hit a deep ball in this game to Tutu Atwell. Lions going to run the ball as well. We saw what Jahmyr Gibbs can do, certainly. And we know what David Montgomery can do. Rams don't give up many rushing touchdowns. They've only given up 4 this year, so they can clog up the middle. And don't forget about Chris Shula in the next hiring cycle. I will just throw that out there. Just throw it out there now. Hear about Jeff Hafley, Matt Burke, those names, talking defensive coordinators. They will get their interviews. Chris Shula is going to get some interviews as well. All right, that's one of the great games in the 4 p.m. Eastern time window. I don't know that this other one in Denver is getting the attention that it deserves. I don't know that people truly believe in the Broncos, and the Packers are like, oh, yeah. We wanted to run Matt LaFleur out of town a couple of weeks ago. Oh, great, you beat the Bears. But when you look at this game on paper, and let's do the specifics here. Green Bay's 9-3-1. They're on the road at Denver, who is 11-2. Friends, this is not only a Super Bowl 32 rematch with Nance and Romo and Tracy Wolfson on the call. This is the 2 seed in the NFC on the road at the 1 seed in the AFC. It's the 2 at the 1. I mean, no one thinks this is a Super Bowl preview, but when it comes to standings, this is about as close as you're going to get, unless you don't believe in either of these teams, and maybe you guys don't. But it's the 2 against the 1. The Broncos are in full control of their fate for the number 1 seed if they win out. As they say, you control your own destiny, even though in reality you don't. Destiny, fate, by definition, is predetermined. That is another conversation for another time. However,
my
the
dad
Broncos,
talks about that all the time.
Who talks about that?
Once a week. My father.
Me?
He's like,
okay, I talk about it all the time as well. Can I give a quick story? Stop me if I told this. Years ago, I'm hosting the Jim Rome show. Jim was out. I was hosting Jim's radio show. And Willis McGahee was playing for the Ravens. And it was the Monday after week 17. So week 17, the end of the season at that point. And the Ravens had just won, and they had made the playoffs with their victory in their final game. And so I'm interviewing Willis the next morning on the radio, and he said, hey, man, we knew we controlled our own destination. Well, all the comments blew up.
You could probably control
tweets.
that, actually, more than your destiny.
Well, that's my point, Jori. All the emails back then, huge email of the day. No, but we're on the same page. Everyone called him out. And I'm like, guys, he's right and you're wrong. Because the Ravens actually controlled their own destination. They controlled exactly where they were going the next week. Their destiny was predetermined, although we could argue if whether or not the destination by way of destiny was also predetermined. But in reality, Willis McGahee was saying it the right way. And everybody else is wrong. So there's that. And your dad is right. What's your dad's name?
Yeah, the Epsteins agree. Barry. Barry's going to be thrilled.
Tell Barry I got him. All right, back to the game. If the Packers win out, they would need 1 loss each from the Rams and the Seahawks to get to the number 1 seed. So there is still a path there for them as well. And to my point about this being a Super Bowl preview, it's only the 12th game since seeding began in 1975, 50 years ago, where you have a top 2 seed against the top 2 seed from either conference in week 15 or later. Like, this doesn't happen very often. Denver has won 10 games in a row, seemingly all of them in the final minute. Denver's got the defense, very different styles of defense here. I trust Jordan Love more than Bo Nix. Jori, that's how I'm picking this game. I trust Jordan Love more than Bo Nix. Your thoughts?
I literally wrote that in my notes. That is funny that you said that.
Okay.
Yes, no, I completely agree. It's funny that I think when I look at this game, I'm not ready to be like, oh, this could be a Super Bowl game, but it would not surprise me if both the Packers and the Broncos were in the conference championship games. Now, I think it would be the Rams most likely to be playing against the Packers and the Bills against the Broncos, but I do think that these are some of the best teams in their divisions, or in their conferences, I should say. So I do think this is a game where I'm like, I trust Jordan Love more than Bo Nix, but I trust the Broncos defense more than I trust the Packers defense, even if I do think Micah Parsons is going to create a bit of an issue. And I also think when you look at Jordan Love, he's back to having his full complement of receivers for the most part after a bunch of injuries. I recognize he doesn't have tight end Tucker Kraft, but in the receiver room specifically, he does have so many different options that I think he's really gotten into this offensive rhythm that is going to be necessary if they're going to make noise in the playoffs. And so I think going against one of the best defenses in the league in the Denver Broncos is really going to put that to the test.
Yeah, really good game. Packers a 2.5-point favorite in Denver. Denver kind of rarely a home underdog as well. Mile High is one of the best home field advantages kind of that we have in the NFL, both because kind of you have the weather and the fan base and obviously the altitude as well. So a rare kind of spot that a team is coming in as a favorite. But the Packers have been kind of highly rated generally by the odds makers, and this is another situation for them to prove basically why that's the case. They haven't been great in this situation as a favorite. They've been favored in a lot of games, but they're only 5-6 against the spread as a favorite. And the Broncos likely will be an underdog in this game, but as we're kind of talking about them as a Super Bowl contender, I think one really interesting thing from last season when maybe they were undervalued by the market, Bo Nix in his rookie year was 8-0 against the spread as a favorite. This season, they're 2-7, but they're 8-1 outright. So in other words, they're not covering the spread as a favorite. They're not winning by as much as odds makers and the public think they should, but they're winning all those games straight up. And we've seen that against Washington and some of those other games over the course of the season. The Packers 5th in DVOA, Denver 8th, so two very good teams. Interesting looking at this. It really, it sounds simple, like it's football. Who can get off the field on third down? The Broncos are the best defense in the NFL at stopping opposing offenses on third down conversion percentage, only 30.9%. And the Packers are the best offense at converting third downs. They're the only team over 50% at 50.6%. So I think the Packers helped a little bit too in the fact they don't have basically that number one receiver. And so there isn't necessarily someone for Patrick Surtain to shadow a bit. They can kind of move some guys around and create potentially favorable matchups. But the Broncos defense is very good. We've seen certainly them with the pass rush create issues for opposing offenses. I think this should be a really good game. I also think the Packers are just a better team, and I trust their infrastructure a bit more, their rushing attack, and the defense. I do think that the Packers win this game and cover. I think they're better than the Broncos. The Broncos have just had so many close calls, and like we were talking about with the Rams and how the Rams are not only winning those games, but covering them and covering them by a lot of points. The Broncos have kind of been doing the opposite. They have been winning a lot of the games, but not necessarily in a convincing way. And so I think, to your point, Andrew, a lot of people see this as almost like the second tier of teams, and maybe that's why it hasn't been in each conference, why it hasn't been as kind of lauded as this great matchup. But this is potentially a Super Bowl preview, and two.
And this is Matt LaFleur winning season. I know Packer fans will push back and go, what about January? But I'll tell you, in December, he's really good. He's coached 25 games in December as head coach of these Green Bay Packers. He has won 21 of those 25 games. So 21-4 in the month of December for Matt LaFleur. Denver, the whole sack thing, obviously they get after the quarterback. They sack the opposing quarterback more than any other team in the NFL. They've also given up the fewest, 17. A lot of that is the quick passing game, the short stuff there from Bo Nix. Also give him credit for getting away. And listen, maybe the Broncos can hold Micah Parsons and get away with it as much as the Bears did last week. You never know if that's the case. Denver gets out of there with a victory. I mean, I watched that game again last night. It was bonkers. They got called for it a couple of times, but like every play, it was almost like the old Seahawks.
Defense, yeah.
Now, by the way, Cam Chancellor or Richard Sherman scheduled to appear on the show next week, but they would tell you, like, we're just going to hold you go ahead, call it. You can't call it every play. We're more physical than you were going to get in your head. Fine line between physical and holding all the time. Unless you're Joey Porter Jr., the Steelers, who truly does, hold on every single play. I'm kidding. He's a nice kid. Anyway, coming up, two more big games to preview, including a battle of big-name wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Justin Jefferson all on the field Sunday night in Dallas, and the Chiefs in a 1 o'clock Eastern time window Sunday elimination game. That's next on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Andrew Siciliano, Jori Epstein, our betting analyst expert, Ben Fawkes, analyst expert. I think both names, both tags, both titles apply. We have two more games to get here to get to you to preview for Week 15. We're going to go in inverse order of the time they're being played. We're going to go right to Sunday night. This game is interesting on so many levels. It has all the star power. It has the Vikings at 5-8, the Cowboys. The game is in Dallas at 6-1. The 11 seed against the 10 seed in the NFC shouldn't be that interesting, but it is. It's Tarico Collinsworth and Melissa Stark on the call. Cowboys have a 10% chance to make the playoffs right now. That's before the outcome of this game Sunday night. They have the number 1 total offense in the NFL, but they have to shut down Justin Jefferson, which most teams have done the last couple of weeks. He has only 4 receptions the last 2 weeks. A lot of people point the finger at J.J. McCarthy. Vikings won a game 31-0 this past week. I had a chance to talk to Justin 2 days ago. The full interview is going to air next week, but here's a piece, Justin, about his quarterback. He didn't play last year. Like, this is kind of his rookie season.
Right.
How does he find that middle ground between like quiet mind guy and 9, right? That alter ego he's talked about, which can have its good moments too, because, to play at this level, you kind of got to live in the middle there.
Yeah, you have to, especially at his position. His position is so looked at and so criticized on so many different levels that you really can't be too high and can't be too low, because when you're too high, then they're going to find reasons to make you low, and they're going to find those critique moments, and as soon as you don't have that high moment, then they're going to bash you. They're going to critique you and criticize you to make you feel down. And then if you're down, they're just going to keep you down because they feel like you're not confident enough, or you're not that type of leader to take over a team and to lead a team, until to the playoffs and into a Super Bowl. So you kind of have to have that middle point where it doesn't matter if it's a good play, negative play, you're still having the same energy. And that's kind of something that I had to learn, while I was in the league, because every moment is not going to be a great moment. There's going to be times where they make plays as well. They get paid to play in the same league as us. So they're going to make plays sometimes, and adversity is going to hit in football because football is so unpredictable and you never know what's going to happen. And then especially as a rookie quarterback. So you just can't really, lean in on the negatives and, lean in on the plays that you felt that should have been better. You just kind of got to lean in on the plays that you did make well, and then look at the plays that you did mess up on and fix, and go on about your day-to-day process. But making sure you have a clean level head and not overly hyped, and just taking what they give you. That's kind of something I preach to them throughout the entire game. Just be focused. Just be concentrated on getting the ball 1 yard ahead of where we at this moment. So I feel like he took that into consideration, and he did very well throughout the game.
Justin Jefferson, fun stuff with him, by the way. We talk. I asked him the question, and we're going to air it next week. Are you over 9? Like the guy that's all fired up, 9, that alter ego. And he laughed and was like, no, I'm not over it. But he firmly does believe that JJ's a better player when he plays with a quiet mind. Also good stuff there with Justin, and we'll play it next week, about body language in light of A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and everything on the Eagles sideline, and how very aware he has to be that the cameras are on him, especially when he's not getting the ball. But the other guys are getting the ball. Dak Prescott is getting the ball to George Pickens and getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. This game, Jori, and you know the Cowboys better than anybody, comes down to Dak against the blitz. Brian Flores is going to get after Dak Prescott. Nobody blitzes more than the Minnesota Vikings, but no one does better against the blitz than Dak Prescott. He is 3rd in the NFL for passing yards against the blitz, and he is 2nd to the NFL passing yards when under pressure. Can Dak hold up against the blitz? I think he can.
Yeah, it's a great question, Andrew. And I think that historically against the Vikings, and even the Vikings under Brian Flores, Dak has fared pretty well, and he's been fairly comfortable compared to some other teams that like to blitz, like the Broncos, for example. Some of what they like to do and the way that they were disguising it has given Dak more trouble. I think that it's not just a Dak question. It's also, how is George Pickens going to rebound after There were some questions about his effort and his attitude in the loss to the Lions last week. How is CeeDee Lamb going to be feeling after he went out of that Lions loss with a concussion? And so Dak is leading the league in passing yards. I mean, he would be the first Cowboys quarterback to lead the league in passing yards at the end of the season if he keeps up on this rate. Obviously, the season's not over, but I think that they all have a connection. They should have a little bit better protection. Tyler Guyton likely to be back in the lineup. And so I think that there are reasons to believe that this offense could find its rhythm. And then on the other side, I mean, the Cowboys defense is not the Washington Commanders defense. Like J.J. McCarthy's 3 touchdowns, 0 interception, close to 70% completion rate last week against the Commanders. That's probably not quite the level of defense he's going to get against the Cowboys, but they will give you some opportunities, particularly with the deep ball. What I wonder about is, according to Next Gen Stats, J.J. McCarthy has thrown downfield, so 10 plus air yards, at the second highest rate in the NFL this season. 44% of the time he's throwing 10 plus yards. But he's completed that just 41.3% of the time, which is 5th lowest in the league. So he might be trying those, which in theory you should do against the Cowboys defense, but is he going to make them? And if not, is there going to be opportunities for takeaways? So I think that you also have to ask yourself, if you're Justin Jefferson and you talk to him about that body language, is he's played better with the quarterbacks who were not J.J. McCarthy this year. I mean, he looked better with Carson Wentz. He had more games of 55 plus receiving yards with other quarterbacks than he has with JJ McCarthy. And so if you start to feel like you're not getting the ball or you're not getting the best opportunity from your quarterback, and then you see on the other side of the field that Dak is finding CeeDee and George, do you start to be like, well, why can't I have that?
Yeah. Interesting. Hold on real quick, Ben. I was thinking about that too. Just bright light spotlight of this game with all that it entails. I didn't want to dive too deep into that game because we're going to play the interview next week. It would seem outdated at that point, but I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, Tirico and Collinsworth are going to be talking about this, and that when they have their production meeting with JJ, and I assume with Justin Jefferson, he's the biggest name in the building, he's going to have to sit down with the national TV crew. They're going to ask the same thing. It will be a talking point. And the cameras will be watching on Sunday. Ben, cut you off. Go for it.
No, I was going to say, to Jori's point, I think I've seen every one of those 41 or 44 passes downfield or however many it was, and they haven't
Vikings
looked good
here.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep on the professional hat as much as I can here, but ultimately, I would just like to put out in the universe, there was a certain wide receiver that you just interviewed, Andrew, who played with a certain quarterback at LSU who might not be happy in Cincinnati. And there may be an opening in Minnesota for a quarterback with a very good roster and special teams and kicker and offensive line and offensive weapons, and actually an entire team except potentially a quarterback. The Cowboys are a 6-point. I think most of what you need to know about this game is the Cowboys are a 6-point favorite against the Vikings. That is the largest favorite the Cowboys have been this season. The Vikings are not good in prime time. The Vikings are not making the playoffs. I liked that Madison put there was some percentage chance in the doc. They're not. That's not happening.
They're one of the teams with it. They're the only team in the NFC with an elimination scenario this week. I think they lose and
there you go.
It's real clean.
Yep. And ultimately, so the Cowboys, big favorite. The Vikings also this season 1-5 against the spread as an underdog. So they've been okay as a favorite against some teams they should beat. They've been really bad as an underdog. Really big injury to watch. Christian Darrisaw didn't practice the first 2 days. He's been kind of off and on practicing with that knee injury, but usually he doesn't practice Wednesday, practices Thursday. He didn't practice on Thursday. They also have Josh Metellus limited, Aaron Jones limited, Jordan Addison limited with an Achilles. So also a banged up team. They're not going to be going against the Washington Commanders defense and Jaden Daniels at the level that Dak is playing. And with the Cowboys still with those slight hopes for the playoffs, I think the Vikings corners are also a big weakness kind of the defense that gets somewhat masked by Brian Flores and that blitz scheme. And Dak has played really well against the Vikings, whether that was a Mike Zimmer defense or Brian Flores in the past. So I think the Cowboys get out to a lead in this game. The Vikings maybe hang around for the first half. And J.J. McCarthy did play very well in that game, but I think a lot of it is usually in these scripted plays kind of in the first quarter, some of the first half, and then it tends to bog down kind of as you go along in that game. And obviously they didn't have to ask him to do that much based off of what the Commanders were looking like in kind of that game. So I think this one gets away from the Vikings a bit. I'd love to be wrong as a fan, but as a bettor, I think that this is Cowboys all the way with that potential playoff spot. And now the Eagles coming back down to earth a little bit as well in that division. So I think the Cowboys have enough motivation. It's on Sunday night. It's national television. They play well in these games. The Vikings do not.
There are two scenarios that would eliminate the Vikings before they take the field Sunday. If the Bears beat the Browns, the Vikings are out. And the other one is if the Lions beat the Rams, and they will be on the field warming up, likely watching on the big screen there. If the Lions beat the Rams before the Vikings kick off, they will be out. And also, when you're on cam, I actually was searching on the floor there for my notes for the Justin Jefferson interview from a couple of days ago, still sitting here on the floor because I'm a mess. And I did have a Joe Burrow question, Jori, or actually Ben, I'm sorry, you're the one who mentioned it. I was going to ask, and this was about an hour before Joe stepped to the podium to do his whole thing. Or maybe it was the day before, whatever. I'm losing track of days. And I wrote down, how is Joe Burrow doing? I never got to it. Oh, well.
No, that was a perfect tease.
Oh, well. No, I never got to it. It was just, we had got to talk about other good stuff. Like, he wants to be an actor, or he's really good at acting, whatever. Anyway, one more game. Let's do like 3 minutes on this one. Not in any way to discount what Jim Harbaugh's Chargers did on Monday night. He compared that victory and what Justin Herbert did to the birth of his children. So I don't know how they could possibly top that in Kansas City, but that's what the Chargers are trying to do. They're 9-4. The Chiefs are 6-7. No jokes. The 5 seed visiting the 10 seed with Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins on the call. The Chiefs will be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss and a Bills victory, or a loss and a Texans, Jaguars, Colts, just 2 of those 3, if that makes sense. So very well they could be done here. Mahomes has never been knocked out before overtime of the AFC Championship game. I'll say that again. Patrick Mahomes, every single season he has been the starting quarterback, he has taken the team to the AFC Championship game, and the only time they lost was in overtime in said AFC Championship game. That's what they do. They could get knocked out here. Chargers are 2 games back of the Broncos. They do hold the head-to-head tiebreaker, and they do play again Week 18. The Chargers have not swept the Chiefs since Phillip Rivers was quarterback in 2013. That same Phillip Rivers
the lucky charm
that has been out of football for 5 years and just got his old behind off the couch to go back and play for another team. That's how long it's been since the Chiefs swept the Chargers. My notes here, Jori, in big letters. Who do you trust in one-score game? Chargers 5-1, Chiefs 1-6. I'm going Chargers. Neither of these 2 teams can protect their quarterback. The O-lines are banged up. Do with it as you please.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first of all, on the playoff notes, I just want to say that the scenarios that could happen to get the Chiefs knocked out are very well within play. I mean, it's the Bills beating the Patriots, which you guys both predicted, the Jaguars beating the Jets, one's a far better team, and the Texans against Arizona. So, I mean, there are some other ones also, but I mean, that it seems very, very doable to me. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. To me, what I think is that even though you might think the Chargers, when I watched the Chargers and Eagles play the other day, I felt like had Jalen Carter been able to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, that might have been enough to make the difference for the Chargers-Eagles result, because the Chargers' offensive line is just so banged up. ESPN has their pass block win rate, how effectively an offensive line is pass blocking. 32nd, last place, 54% of the time the Chargers are able to do it, and they're not that much better blocking for the run at 31st, second worst in the league, 59%. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are 9th in the league in pass rush win rate. So when I think about what Chris Jones can do, I'm kind of like, well, that's what the Eagles needed last week from Jalen Carter. So I know that the Chiefs have a lot of issues. I also think they're desperate. And I also think that they are going to create a level of pressure on Justin Herbert beyond what the Eagles were able to do last week, particularly at the line of scrimmage.
And to Jori's point, so this open Chiefs -5.5, which seems high when you think of obviously the two teams and kind of where the Chiefs are. Some respected money came in, did drop to 4.5. It's now back up to the original of 5.5. The bigger movement on the total, as you alluded to, Jori, with those two defenses, this is open 44.5, 45 down to 41.5. So a 3-point move on the total downward is pretty significant. The Chiefs still they've dropped somewhat in power ratings. They were, in the top 5 for a long time, but I think it's significant as well. So they're plus 500 to make the playoffs right now at BetMGM. The Cowboys are plus 600. So just to put into perspective a bit where they are, the Chiefs are also 50-1 to win the Super Bowl, which is the biggest odds, the longest odds they've ever had in the Patrick Mahomes era at any point. So regardless of whether they make the playoffs, not odds makers, not necessarily seeing that they would do anything there. Ben Solak had a great article on ESPN kind of laying out some of their offensive problems. But in essence, they've had the lowest explosive rush rate for running backs of any team since 2000. Basically, Mahomes having a lot of RPOs. And because of that, and that inability to run the ball as well, they've had to try and have some wide receivers on the field that like Juju Smith-Schuster and Noah Gray, who also aren't as explosive, but better run blockers. So they're not running the ball well with those guys, but they're on the field. That also makes them more predictable. And obviously they have a multitude of offensive line injuries. And then sometimes it's kind of just not your year. And I think that's what we've seen. There's that certain intangible quality the Chiefs have just kind of had previous seasons. You assume that they would find a way to get it done. And this season, you kind of have assumed the opposite, that there's a way they're not going to win these games. And in general, that's kind of what happens. So I think this is a game. We saw that Chargers defense play really well against the Eagles. I think that was a combination of the Eagles' kind of offensive issues and also a really good Chargers defense. So I think this will be a low-scoring game. It's going to be another. Mahomes is going to have to put them on his back. It seems like too many points. I think this is the Chargers usually they've historically played the Chiefs close in any season. And Justin Herbert looked about as good. We now have a data point of how he looks with essentially one hand playing quarterback. And he looked good enough. So I like the Chargers to cover this game, whether or not they win. But it should be a really good game.
It's like Luke Skywalker coming back after Vader cut his hand off. No.
Same thing.
Am I aging myself again? No? Okay.
I'm with you.
Empire Strikes Back. Anybody? No? Luke, I am.
We're not getting a lot from Jori.
We all know my pop culture is not good at any age. So, we've discussed on this show previously.
Have you not seen any Star Wars movies?
I've not seen Star Wars movies.
Oh, man.
Hold on. You haven't seen a single Star Wars movie?
You and my wife.
I feel like I saw one Star Wars or Star Trek in theaters like a while back.
No, there's a big difference. Please don't be that person. No, not even for like the greatness.
Okay, we should just go to our one.
You're killing Andrew right now.
No, not even for Natalie Portman. Come on.
Not even. But I do appreciate Natalie Portman, the person, quite a bit. But
that's why I figured you would dive in. Now, the prequels were not good.
Movies.
And that's what she was in. The prequels were not good, but still. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to embarrass myself. One of these days, Natalie's going to figure it out. Just, be it her, but moving on. Let's do one more thing before I truly embarrass myself. Jori, you can go first, please. I'm going to stop talking.
We've all been there when we go for a high five and someone leaves us hanging. And so Texans owner Cal McNair had the most relatable moment at the Texans game this week, the Chiefs-Texans game, I should say, when CJ Stroud did not realize he had his hand up as he was high-fiving a bunch of fans and left him hanging. So what did Cal McNair do? A few days later...
He still hasn't gotten it yet?
This is so good.
I just want to note for anyone listening rather than watching the video that Cal McNair is walking around the Texans facility with his hand extended, waiting for CJ Stroud to give him the high five. With the same outfit he was wearing
at the game. Exact same outfit. The same trench coat, the same skull cap.
And every time someone else tries to do it, they're like, oh no, that one's for CJ.
You got players coming out of the locker room. Xavier Hutchinson. Nope. Christian Kirk. Don't want to high-five him.
This is a CJ Stroud high five that needs to be completed.
CJ.
Yeah, baby. I've been waiting for that.
Oh, CJ got him.
I just love the commitment. My husband likes to
Well
say
done.
if there's one thing I am, it's committed to a bit, and I don't get tired of bits. So, yes, shout out to the Texans for having some fun with that.
Absolutely. Well done. Well done, Cal McNair. What do you got, Ben?
It's odd to say, but we had those comments, I think it was last week, that nobody cares about the Jaguars. Well, we might want to. I mean, all of a sudden, they are very quietly right there in the AFC playoff picture. They are a 13.5-point favorite against the Jets this weekend, which is the biggest favorite they've been in 18 years. So you would assume that they're going to win that game. And they also still have a game against the Broncos. So there is an outside chance, and yeah, a pretty outside chance, they could get the number 1 seed in the AFC. Since the Week 8 bye, the Jaguars are 5-1. Their offense has been great in success rate. Their defense has been great in success rate and EPA per play. And they have all of the elements, right? They have the new head coach who's offensive play caller, former number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence, a good defense. I don't know if I'd say the home field advantage necessarily in the playoffs, but they're favored to win the AFC South all of a sudden. And they just have constantly been winning those close games as well. So I don't think anyone's saying they're going to be world beaters, but as these other teams fall out of the playoff race, and the Ravens, the Chiefs, teams that we thought were going to be some of those 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds, don't forget about the Jaguars. They're still there, and this could come back to haunt me in a couple weeks, but they're going to make the playoffs. We'll see how much noise they can make there.
My one more thing, and yes, good point there, Ben, certainly on the Jaguars. My one more thing, it actually comes from what Aaron Rodgers said today. He was on the podium and he was asked about Phillip Rivers, and he said, I think it's great. I'm no longer the oldest player in the league. So then I thought, well, who's the youngest? And I went, oh, well, of course, it's Dylan Sampson of the Browns. He played his first game week 1 at 20 and scored his first touchdown week 2 on his 21st birthday. But let's put these guys side by side, because Phillip Rivers is now the oldest and Dylan Sampson is now the youngest. And the difference in age is ridiculous. Phillip Rivers, 12/8/81, the day he was born. Dylan Sampson, 9/14/04, the day that he was born. Phillip Rivers was drafted 5 months before Dylan Sampson was born. You would think he would have played week 1, but he was inactive week 1. Phillip didn't play much his rookie year, kind of took a redshirt year with the Chargers. Obviously, Drew Brees was there. Phillip Rivers, the oldest player in the league, was drafted 5 months before Dylan Sampson, the youngest player in the NFL, was born. How about that one? To make you feel old. By the way, Dylan is an amazing kid, and yes, I can call him a kid because I am more than double his age. Had him on my Browns podcast last week. He is a delight. Quick story, we were using a program called Riverside, which, you know, a lot of people here in the podcasting world have used. And when you get done, you have to wait until the video uploads to the server, especially if you're on a mobile device. Well, Dylan was doing the interview from his car on an off day. It was a delight for 15 minutes. And when we got done, our producer said, hey, Dylan, can you chill for a second? And normally it takes like 30 seconds for the video to upload. He was in a bad spot for cell service. It took 15 more minutes to upload. And the youngest player in the NFL just kept the phone on his dashboard and ran around town doing his errands, making small talk with a guy double his age about football, life, music, Tennessee, anything, and he couldn't care less. Could not have been nicer. Dylan Sampson, nice young man, as this old man now makes himself look older. For Jori Epstein and for Ben Fawkes, my name is Andrew Siciliano. We thank you for listening to and watching Inside Coverage, our Week 15 preview show. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. So long.